Asked like how to build a strong team in my company. There's a couple of things there, but one of the biggest things that I think often gets overlooked is number one is your one-on-one meetings. And people say, oh yeah, I meet with my team one-on-one all the time. It's like, yeah, I come in, I talk, we see each other and blah blah. The truth is, like, you got to have something scheduled so that you don't go 2-3 weeks without having that one-on-one conversation. Number two is you got to make it effective one-on-one conversations. So they come in, you want to get to the point where you're talking about your numbers and where you need to go, but the first thing you got to do is build rapport with that individual. First thing, and I hate it because I'm a type A personality, like I want to get to the point real quick, but you got to ask how they're doing and find out what's going on in their life and that kind of stuff. People don't really care what you know until they know that you care. And we used to talk about that in our company all the time. Jeff Stamps used to say it all the time. I love that guy. And if you're talking about their personal stuff, they know that you care and you're thinking about it. Don't ask it and not register what they're saying. Actively listen to what's going on, provide some things, then move over and start getting into the numbers and what's going on in the company and what needs to be done, and are they hitting their targets, and do they need some help, and what can you do to help them, and what trainings could they use, and that kind of stuff. You got to have those one-on-one meetings as personal conversations and with all your direct reports, preferably on a weekly basis. Maybe it's just a bi-weekly basis. It depends on, you might only meet with them once a month, who knows. But that's one of the biggest things I'd say that has to be there in order to have that, strong team. The next thing I would do is I would make effective meetings that are scheduled on a regular cadence. One that you cancel them immediately if there's no agenda and there's no reason to meet because nothing's happened, fine. Cancel the meeting, save everyone the time. And then they all know that you're respectful of their time. Number two, don't bring people into the meetings that don't need to be in the meeting. If they're not providing input, if they don't, have something to say, there's no reason for them to be in it. And so don't bring them into it. It just slows your company down when you have those meetings with a bunch of extra people. But if you've got leadership meetings and things like that, and you've got just your leaders there, and you've got an agenda, and you've got everything else, it's going to be very effective. Just make sure that they're scheduled on a regular basis so that you got to go to that meeting and you've got to hear those things. When I moved out of California, went to Las Vegas, and I still had companies in California, if it wasn't for the regular contact and that regular meeting cadence, I'd have lost my business. We would have been out of business by now. Because I just would have overlooked things that I would have known had I been checking in with my company and making sure that those things are being hit. It's really cool. Those leaders, they want that time where they can talk to you about the issues that are happening. They don't want to come around to you every 2 hours and tell you there's another problem. It just makes them look bad. But they want that safe place where they can sit down and talk that's been set aside for you to be able to make sure that, hey, this is the time that I can talk about the problems I'm having. And you want to talk about those problems. When you're in the meeting and they bring up a problem, do not jump on them and get super mad because it's a problem. That's iffy. Then they're not going to want to come back to you anymore. Last thing I'd say is performance reviews. Make sure that you schedule performance reviews. One-on-ones can really help with getting them that ongoing performance culture throughout the year. But let's say you do performance reviews once every 6 months or once every year. That's your opportunity to talk to them about just performance. During your one-on-ones, you might want to talk about, personal stuff and everything else, and that's good. But if they have a formal time where they can talk about their performance, and with our performance reviews, we had people in the company rate each other anonymously, and then they also get a rating from the manager, and then they also get the rating based on their numbers. So they get 3 inputs. And people need to have that input. They need to feel like, hey, am I doing well? Am I not doing well? Like, does my owner recognize me? Does my manager recognize me? Does the owner recognize me? Does the, am I doing well? Should I be rewarded? I mean, they need to hear all that stuff. So 3 things is one-on-ones, gotta have them. 2, regular meeting cadence with people that actually should be in the meeting and have an agenda. And number 3, performance reviews. Those are the 3 things I'd really be pushing to make sure you have a solid team at your company.